Are you dealing with any dietary issues still? Because I know that you had the gluten thing and you fixed that.
No, actually. I think pretty much everything at this point is healed. I will notice that if I go overboard, and that's with anything, that can be junk food, it could be, too much coffee, just not eating well for a long period of time, my stomach will rebel. But otherwise, after healing most of it, and as long as I'm actually taking care of my body, I don't really have any dietary issues.
That's good. Yeah. Variety is probably my biggest downfall. I cooking just doesn't come easy to me. Food in general just doesn't come easy to me despite my studying and trying. And that's probably my problem. I'm trying too hard. I feel like I need to know the science in and out before I can like Savannah, it's not that deep. Just stand at the pan. Don't walk away. And then I get distracted and yeah, I could probably fix a lot of my issues if I just did the thing. But I guess it's like most of us, we know the things that we're quote unquote supposed to be doing, but if we don't actually put it into practice.
Well, and that's the thing is that I was doing my list of what I'm gonna pick up at the store to make dinners with. I was like, I really don't want to plan anything complicated, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna make an easy chicken bake. It's like Dustin's favorite meal and Oliver's favorite meal. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna buy hot dogs and we'll do hot dogs one night. And you know what? It's not gourmet. There's a lot of people who would, go, "Oh my God, you're feeding your kid hot dogs." Well, my kid goes to school and eats school lunches. So, if if they're eating some chili and hot dogs, it's not the worst thing. So I try not to overcomplicate it. Um, I have to remind myself that, it really doesn't, to bring the spiritual aspect into it. They said, blessing your food makes more difference than anything else that you're doing. So, not overcomplicating it, blessing the food and just going, I appreciate that we have the opportunity to eat this. The lack of stress that you're putting on yourself makes the food digest so much easier anyway. So, really, at the end of the day, it's not that it has to be these five-star gourmet meals that the kids aren't going to want to eat anyways. Again, going back to my kid just wants to live off gyozas, and the other one just wants anything steak or protein. So they don't really care. It's not that deep. So,
Hmm. It's funny that people get these ideas of us like we're not normal people like they are. Like it, to other people, they wouldn't bat an eyelash that they were feeding their kids hot dogs. But I had somebody, one of my neighbors, this was probably at least 5 years ago. She came over and she's just like, I wanted to stop in and say hi. I went to school with her, so like I knew her from like a distance of sorts. She was a little bit older than me. So like we knew that we lived close to each other, but we had never like formally been like, hey, we're neighbors. But she stopped in and said hi, and she was like, I I wanted to bring your dogs a treat, but I didn't know what kind that you fed them, and I didn't know if you would be cool with this because it's not organic or naturally made or anything like you usually do. And I'm like, that was one of my first like, really? That's what people think. Okay, cool. Because, we people only have the ideas of us that we put out and we allow them to see. And we're a completely different person to every single person in our lives. And especially when you're posting things online, there's a persona that people gather for you that may most likely is completely non-fictional. I was like, no, look, I give my dogs like whatever. We eat table scraps. It's fine. I'm very down to earth, actually.
it was funny because that's what I had a lot of people do the same with me. They think because I'm very immersed in the spiritual community, that am at the forefront of a lot of major things that go on in that community, that I have this extreme standard of living and
Mhm.
expectations. And I find it funny because as I was it's like, scrolling on social media at one point, somebody had said the exact same thing that I kind of live. Balance in all things, right? Like I'm not trying to eat the cleanest foods all the time because that's just not my reality, and I'm not stressing about it either. I let my body tell me when I've gone too far. Try to listen before it gets to that point. But the guy was asking the lady questions, and her like age, even though she was like 60, was reading medically like in her 30s. And he's like, "Oh, you must be doing all the things." And she was like what? And he was like, "Oh, you must be, doing the biohacking and sleeping at least 8 hours a night." She's like, "No." And he was like, "Wait a minute, like you don't get your 8 hours of sleep?" She's like, "No, I have a life." And he was like, "Oh, you must be eating all the perfect foods, you must be like counting calories and all of this." And she was like, No, no, I try to eat enough vegetables, but like that's not life." He's like, "Oh, you must be exercising, this many." She's like, "No, like I take days off. There's days I don't even get out of bed and make my bed. I'm not doing all these things." And I live the same way. It's like people expect a certain thing, and I just don't live that way. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like that's an extreme that's not, I don't want to say it's not healthy because for some people it works having to plan out every moment, do everything, but it's also, I feel like that's also like a trauma response. If you're living in such a controlled world that you can't just relax, then that's not healthy either. It's really, it works for some people, and I'm not hating on that, but I can't live that way. I need
Mhm.
my life to flow. If
Mhm.
we're out, I'm gonna eat fast food. Do I prefer to? No, not really. I'm gonna try to make the healthiest choice, but like, hey, let's go to, Wendy's instead of McDonald's. Technically, is that better? Not really, but in my mind, it makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Um, am I gonna go to Starbucks and get a coffee? I might. I'm gonna prefer to make it at home where I can put mushroom powders and stuff in it, but like, I'm not gonna say, oh, I can't have that because it's Starbucks. So I think everything in life is balance, and people work really way too hard. At the end of the day, if you want to bless your food, and if it's a Starbucks cup, then by all means your body's probably going to take it better. That's enough for me.
Yeah, the stress of the thing is oftentimes worse than the thing. Like they
Yeah.
said that what is it? I heard this recently. I'm terrible with sources, so I don't remember where the information came from. I just know that I took in the information somewhere somehow. But they were talking about how trying to quit smoking is oftentimes worse on the body than just allowing yourself to have a few cigarettes. And like, we're not advocating for that. We're just saying that how you feel about the thing is probably the vast majority of the problem with the thing. Because if, we believe in the energy and whatnot, and that means that you can essentially change the energy of the thing to an extent. Yeah.
Yeah, like often in hypnotherapy, yes, we go in and work on the mental aspect because often the stress is the worst part and the mental hurdles of overcoming any addiction or anything. Now, of course, there's always the chemical stuff that's involved,
Hmm.
biologically, but um, the mental aspect is one of the often the worst parts of that process, the hurdles that are almost impossible to overcome. But often we're replacing it with something else because of that. So giving them something for oral fixation, something that they can keep their hands busy, so that it doesn't just feel like we're taking something away, which often then the mental part is the worst part. And then the stress that that brings is just as bad, if not worse, than the thing they're doing. Obviously, they're making a life change for a reason. Obviously, it's not good for you. But some people's inability to handle stress makes it so much worse. So you're not wrong in that. Like, often replacing it with something else, um, in whatever fashion that takes, not trading one addiction for another, right? But like giving them something else to do makes that transition easier because it doesn't feel like a lack thereof. And then the stress of obviously that was a stress reliever in the first place.
Hmm.
Not the healthiest way to do it, but still a way for them to handle and manage stress. It's why some people are still 70 and 80 years old smoking. Yes, it
Hmm.
has its ill effects, but that's been the way that they relieve stress. So, at the end of the day, we live in a world now where stress is the most prevalent thing people deal with. And with that comes, we're taking away people's ability to handle stress without giving them some other way to handle it. And that's what we need most is the ability for the body to relax.
Yeah. It's such a weird place of life is more stressful than it's ever been. So we're dealing with more stress. But also, listen, I'm going to butcher the crap out of this. I can really feel Mercury working today, the retrograde. I can't words. And I sabotaged myself, I think. All morning I was like, oh, we can talk about this and we can talk about that. And how am I going to start it off? Oh, I'm going to start it off like this. And then I just like I got on here and my mind went it didn't freeze up. It didn't forget anything. It remembered everything. And that was the problem because I could go in 8,000 different directions. So, of course, I went nowhere. Um,
Short it.
short circuit. Uh, yeah. And also, thank you so much for being malleable this morning and allowing me to, because we had the scheduling mix up and stuff. So, I appreciate that. Anyway. Oh, cat. I knew that was going to happen. I tried to kick her out, and then she opened the door. I gotta pause this so I can clean that up. Hold on. Okay, so I'm gonna butcher this like crazy. I'm gonna do my best not to. Used to, in history speaking, if you think about how your ancestors lived, life was stressful, but in a different way. It was it was simple in the sense of you needed food, water, shelter, clothing, your basic needs. And you did not always have those things. They were more scarce back then. You had to work harder to get them. Sickness was more prevalent because we didn't have modern medicine. Of course, anyway, no tangents. Nowadays, life is stressful in a different way. It's a more mediocre type of stress, but it's more constant. And when I say mediocre, is like we're stressing about things that don't actually matter most of the time, rather than food, shelter, and water. And because for the vast majority of us, at least over here, our basic needs are met for the most part. Most of us are not worrying about where our next meal is going to come from. Are we going to be able to feed our kids? Uh, are we going to have shelter tomorrow? Like please don't let the temperatures drop because we're going to freeze. And of course, tons and tons and tons and tons of people still that do deal with all of that. But generally speaking, most of us are stressed out over mundane things that don't actually matter and I don't know. It's funny because we're all depressed, even though we're living in the most abundant of times.
Well, I mean,
Comfort.
purpose is gone.
Yeah.
I mean, those things in communities where you had to garden for your food, you had to plan during the winter months, you had to go get wood to stay warm. I mean, obviously, back then there was a lot more basic purpose. And as we took that away, you have to find a new purpose, and that's every civilization at any point in their advancement, right? And so now we're moving into a new, which obviously we're dealing with now, where many people have to find a sense of purpose within the cultural set points that we have, which is now the technological era. Well, I think there a lot of people have not realized that we're moving into a new era already with that advancement, which is AI coming in and look at all these companies that are removing jobs that are even in the tech industry. A lot of people are realizing that they're going to have to find new jobs. A lot of people are already losing their jobs. And because of, if you think about it, normally a society has, 30 to 50 years to transition into a new phase. So, every time we've advanced, we have a 30 to 50-year transition period in our advancement time frame that allows people to shift into new careers, new positions, new meanings of life, like things that they can have a purpose. This is the first time in, I think, pretty much our growth as any civilization where it happens in a 5 to 10 year period because technologically we've advanced so fast, so quickly. AI has had such a jump that everybody who found meaning in the technological era are now finding that they don't have time to transition out of that era. So for those people who are finding meaning, and which is, millions of people who are in technologically advanced careers, AI is now coming and wiping a lot of that out because it can run the systems that humans had to. So you're going to find that over the next, 10 years, all of these people who have gone to school, gone to college, made their careers in technology, that either they find a way to work within the AI systems, which are going to be hard because it predominantly runs itself. There's not going to be as many careers within that technological place. So there's going to be a lot of people who are just finding also, again, that scarcity in jobs, which also then translates to fear and depression and lack of purpose. So, we're losing a lot of people who are in trades, and a lot of people are going back to the old traditions of farming and the things that technologically can't be taken away from people. So, yes, you've got big pharma, that's run off things. Well, not big pharma. So, that's basically all of the things that took over our farming industry and everything that led up into, all of that transitioning. People are kind of going back to on a small scale, which gives purpose, but it doesn't have to be the end all be all. So it's like people are finding a way to find the crafting again, find the purpose in the small and mundane things, ways to find purpose in the day-to-day tasks and the trades, while still being able to have careers in other fields. So it's kind of people are going back to balance. I think that's going to be a long time of transition, though. I don't think that's going to be easy because there's so many people who are no longer trained in those things, who don't really fit in that realm very easily. Um, so I think we're going to see it get worse before it gets better. And I think that's because there's not a lot of time for that transition to happen. And so I think people finding purpose in life is going to be the most important thing as these next generations of transition happen. And they're going to happen very quickly.
Do you listen to Joe Rogan?
I don't very often. I like podcasts like that. I think with me being so busy, it's hard for me to find time to listen to a lot of things that I used to, but um, I did listen to him for a while, as far as that goes, and I do like his podcast.
Okay, I just asked because that's more or less exactly what he's been talking about a lot lately with AI and how, um,
Really?
yeah, and how, it's taking away jobs and people are freaking out about that, and how a universal income has been proposed, but then how problematic that is in the sense of, like, we do need to take care of people. We do need to help people transition and whatnot, but a lot of people, the problem is purpose, and a lot of people hold their purpose in their job. So if they lose their job to AI and they don't have anything to fall back on, then that's where the problems really arise of, mental health and the worst part, the getting worse part, because a lot of people don't know where they don't have purpose. For sure. We're all just kind of like, not all, but a lot of us are just zombie-fied, going with the motions of this needs to be done. Okay, I gotta cook dinner. Okay, I gotta get the kids over here. Okay, now the kids gotta go to ball practice. Okay, now I gotta go to work. Okay, I gotta do my morning routine, my night routine. We're just kind of like on this treadmill, running in circles, little hamster wheel. But I agree that people are moving back towards the trades of old, I guess. Rowan wants to be a blacksmith.
That's the coolest career I've heard in a long time.
Isn't it the coolest thing? Okay, what people don't realize, because when he first told me, I was like, "Oh, I'm so proud." Like absolutely, my son, the blacksmith. Yeah. In practice, though, that is incredibly stressful for a mom of a 10-year-old who is outside, um, trying his best to work with what he has in the yard to start blacksmithing. It's dangerous.
Yeah, but I mean, you think about it, all those trades back in the day were. It was all
Sure.
hands-on. Farming is dangerous. I
Yeah,
mean,
but he probably had like he would have had an old man that was also doing it that he could watch or something and proper tools instead of just makeshift. He likes to we had some old tin in the backyard, so he's been cutting that up and making weapons.
I think that's great. Maybe
I like
starting
the
with
idea.
arrowheads or, things that he can start learning the skill of, whittling down wood or doing arrowheads and working with stones. I mean, there's so many ways that he can play with that to start building skill. That doesn't necessarily have to be working with metal and, you know, thousands of degrees
Yeah,
um, in the beginning. But, and that's the thing is we've lost so many skills.
we have.
It's actually funny that he wants to do that because I was thinking of a gift of what to get Dustin a couple of years ago and had to order it and at the time there wasn't all the wars going on quite like they are now, um, from Russia because I couldn't find anybody who could make a knife that was hand forged and created how I wanted to. And so I had to order it in. It took a long time to get here, but it was the most beautiful, working knife for cooking and dealing with meat and butchering and everything. And so I do think we need more skills like that. I think that guy at the time obviously was making a living doing it and had a lot of fun. We've lost a lot of these trades, but I think it's the same thing for anything, right? Like farming, a lot of people are just getting back into it, don't
Hmm.
know what they're doing. They don't have grandparents now who can teach them how to do these things. I didn't when I got back into it. I remember watching my grandparents do it, but my parents did not. And so having to go back and watch, and trying to figure out like what did he do? Well, he did traditional practicing where everybody tilled the ground and replanted year after year without rebuilding it. It wasn't a good blueprint to learn from, and so it was
Hmm.
something I had to learn, watching YouTube videos for a couple of years, learning
Hmm.
how to rebuild soil. Every skill that we have lost, we're walking back into. We're having to learn a new way of doing it or learning from maybe videos where there is someone trying to pass the skill down. And that's just part of, I think, walking back into society where we're regaining things that we didn't have this last generation.
Hmm.
I think that's what a lot of people are running into. It's trying to regain lost knowledge of how to do things. I think that's going to be the difficulty of walking into the society we have now is there's much that we're trying to backtrack
Hmm.
on. We may not have those people to teach us, and that's why I think it's really important for people who are regaining these skills and learning. That's why so many people are going, teach me, show me how. What do I do? And I think having the availability in whatever way you can helps pass that on. I can't say how many people have come because they just want to see the farm. They just want to understand how it's set up, how we're running it organically, and not doing pesticides and not tilling and making everything work symbiotically, which is really hard because we're still learning. I
Hmm.
mean, all these years later, I'm still trial and erroring and because we didn't have that. So
Hmm.
I think there's just this phase of society where I think we should do it anyways. I think we should do it and fail a million times over because we're having to do this in a way that it's not been done. Generationally, it's not passed down anymore. So if he wants to learn blacksmithing, it's like, oh yeah, definitely find a way to like make that work. Find a way to get into it because we need things like that. Things have lost their value. People don't do things by hand anymore. And so, everything's made on conveyor belts and as cheaply as possible.
Hmm.
We just really don't have access to the quality we used to. And I think there's a huge subset of people that are looking for that.
Yeah. And it's further removed than we think too, because, we think about how our grandparents had gardens, but their version of garden was the victory garden, which was not, are you familiar? You're familiar with that, right?
Yeah,
You obviously, you're Chelsey Perry, you know everything about gardening.
I
Um,
definitely don't. I promise you that. I still fail to this day. It's just the experience. I've failed a lot.
Well, sure, sure. People all because houseplants are the only thing I've been able to succeed at. And people come over and they're like, "Oh, I wish I had a green thumb." Like, me too. And they're like, "Your house is full of plants." I'm like, "Yeah, but I've killed more than like you have to kill them and kill them and kill them and kill them until you figure it out." I mean, some people have, that gift, but I had to work at it. But anyway, the Victory Garden was established after World War I. World War II, one of them. And that's how our grandparents gardened. And it was, you take a square of land and you till it up, and then you plant the plants directly into the tilled soil. And so that was ingrained in society for the past 100 years, almost 100 years, as the right way to garden. But it was brand new and really problematic with the soil nutrition, and the tilling of the land is harmful. So when I started, I've been famously unsuccessful with my garden I've been doing a garden every year for 13 years now. Since I was like 19 or 20, as soon as I had a place and could start gardening, I did. And to this day have never been successful at all.
Really? I didn't even realize it wasn't. I just thought you were gardening and, doing your thing.
No, I go about that. I'm 200. I try to do too much. That's what it is. I'm learning now that I just try to do too much. But I went from z basically zero knowledge about any of it to like, where do I even start? So I didn't, because we didn't have people to look up to or people to like teach us or tell us how to start, where to start. We were just kind of kids figuring it out on our own. And so I started in the wrong places. And I tried to do all of the plants, from the beginning. But most of those, like, I don't even, like, okay, if it succeeds in the garden, what am I supposed to do with it then? So I was trying to learn not only how to grow each individual plant, but how to utilize it once it's grown. And that to me meant knowing like the composition of it and the medical use of it. And so, whereas other people would be like, what do you mean? What do you do with it, Savannah? It's a pepper. You just pick it and you eat it, like, ta-da. And I'm like, yeah, but like, what does it cure? I don't know. I just try to do way too much.
I mean, I think that's so many people, though. It's overwhelming. It's like our grandparents knew how to do all the things, like the canning and all of that. I will say that burnout is a real thing, and I think people tend to forget that, like, that's one of the biggest things that also make you fail. Because, like, for example, I've been gardening, and I started with one garden bed on the side of my house in a city. And I started there because I knew eventually we would move to a farm. I knew that was our dream, and I knew if I didn't start and learn how to do it now, then I clearly was going to fail when it got to a bigger scale. And then when we moved here, it was like I put in 4 raised garden beds. That was it. And I started with that year and learned how to do that. And then I added 2 more. And then the next year I added 4 more. And now I'm up to like 32 raised garden beds and then one large in-ground garden and then orchards and all the things. But that was over the course of 7 years, 7, 8, 9, 10 years because I started before I moved here. And then we had a few chickens in our backyard and learned how to take care of those in the city. I'm only just now because I watched videos all through winter. Every year, every winter, I would watch videos. How do I do this? How do I do this? And tried to do too much. And so I failed a lot. This is the first year Dustin finally bought me an All-American canner. This is only the first year that I'm learning how to pressure can. I've got a canner, but I've never learned how to do it because I was so terrified that I was going to hurt myself with the canner that I only did water bath canning. And I got really good at that. But all I could do was tomato products and like pickled products, like cucumbers, pickles, and salsa. So I would can 100 jars of salsa and just do that for that year. Like, and then I just like tried to remind myself that every time I wanted a pantry full of food that I had grown, one, half the foods that people were saying to grow, I didn't even want. I didn't even want to eat. Why would I grow them? And I grew them and I didn't even eat them. They went to waste.
Hmm.
So why am I wasting my time on things that I don't enjoy? I'm not going to want to put the effort into. I don't care about. My kids don't eat. So I planted a raspberry bush. My kids out there eating breakfast every morning off snow peas and berries. I don't even have to do anything. The berries grow themselves. I have to do nothing. Like the minimal effort things are so important because there's literally no point in doing anything else unless you want it and you enjoy it.
Hmm.
Um, I had Dustin build a greenhouse this year. I was so excited all these years. I finally got the greenhouse. And now I'm looking at it going, I have no idea what to do with it.
Yeah.
How to grow in a greenhouse. I have never in my life used a greenhouse. I have, so you can see my dirty room. Here is my pre-greenhouse grow station. This entire thing is from floor to ceiling. It's full of grow lights. I know how to use that. It costs me way less than that greenhouse that we just built that literally does all the things that I don't know how to do. And so he's like, "Oh, are you so excited to use it?" Now I'm like, so much. And he put blood, sweat, and tears into that thing, and I love it so much. It's beautiful, and it's not been touched. All because it feels like we have to fit into standards. We have to do all the things that people are telling us to do. If you're into something, you need to be all in, right? Like I think that's an OCD tendency where you're like, I got to have all the things to start.
Hmm.
And then you end up doing none of it because it was overwhelming and it
Hmm.
was a great idea, and then it sits off in a corner somewhere. People really like society right now because of all the influencers and the videos and all the things they think they have to do so many things to start something. And
Hmm.
honestly, it's the worst expectations to put on people because it doesn't work that way. So now it's just like, okay, I'm going to go out and buy a couple extra blueberry bushes and plant those because I know my kids are going to eat them. I know I'm going to eat them. I don't have to do anything. Low maintenance. The grapes are in, they've been in for years. I don't have to do anything. And if I don't eat them, no harm, no foul. The birds get them.
Hmm.
Like if I don't have time because life gets busy, I don't have to do anything.
Hmm.
I just bought new chestnut trees to plant. 10 years before I get anything out of them, I don't have to do anything. Zero maintenance. I'm choosing easy over complicated. Like at this point, planting pecan trees, 10 years till I get anything. 5 if I'm lucky. I don't have to do anything. I just mow around it.
Hmm.
Low maintenance. Everything now, it's like I think when we're young, we feel like we have to keep up with the Joneses. We have to do all the things to start a project. I've just realized like that doesn't work anymore, and that's not a healthy way to go about it because it creates stress too.
Hmm.
If I go to the store, a farmer's market, and I buy bulk green beans, well, then I can freeze those. I didn't have to grow them. Would I have preferred to grow them? Absolutely. But the bunnies eat my garden. So, like, who am I kidding? I lost 300 plants last year planting, and I got so mad because I'd plant them again and again and again and again. And to watch them get eaten, realizing that's just not going to work for me. I might be able to buy more expensive raised beds, the metal ones, one day. But in the meantime, like, forget it. I'm going to buy them. And I'll can those now that I have a canner. And I can be just as happy with that. No harm, no foul. Like, life doesn't have to be hard. Any project you start doesn't have to be complicated. We as a society think everything has to look so perfect and picture perfect, and we have to do things right. And that's just, we're not here for that. Humans don't work that way. We're messy, we fail, we fall. Like that's the whole point of being here. Otherwise, what's the point? Like the stress is just not necessary.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a very do with whatever I have around and whatnot. And I so our blueberry bushes are doing great. And I always wanted like a food forest type thing because
Me too.
even though, me and Blake fought and fought and fought over the garden because for years, because he was like, what you're doing is not working. Let me just till the ground and we'll plant. He just wanted to do your standard victory garden. He's like, this is how people have done it forever. And I'm like, it's not forever. They've been doing it for maybe 80 years, and that's about it. And but he wouldn't listen. And I'm like, if everything goes correctly and properly, if I can just figure this out, yes, it's more work up front, but then it's supposed to be low maintenance and carefree the rest of the time. If you can figure out what plants to plant in the apple guild, for example, the apple tree guild. You plant an apple tree in the center, and then there's certain plants that you plant around it that work in a symbiotic relationship to where this plant mulches everything with its
The
dropping.
comfrey. Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah,
the
yeah.
comfrey.
And then this plant restores the nutrients, and this plant draws up the nutrients from the uh, deep ground. Like it's just everything. If you can figure out the combination, It's supposed to be so much easier in the long run, and you're not out there having to like weed constantly and take care of everything. But
Can I play devil's advocate here?
sure,
I've tilled my garden. And I know that's blasphemy coming from someone who, like me, like people hold to such high standards. We live in the South. We have clay soil.
yeah.
I didn't want to wait years to have a garden because I'm not doing myself a service, and I'm not saying it's the wrong way to do it. But people are so shocked when I say that. We bought a tiller. I tilled my ground. I could not break ground otherwise. I tried shoveling it. I tried lightly, pitchforking it to start aerating it. It didn't work. It's cement and it just doesn't grow. I tilled my garden, but I also went and grabbed a truckload of mushroom compost and we dumped it in and tilled it in and then covered it. Is that what everybody says is the best thing to do? No, but I get food out of it
Hmm.
because now it's like once I initially tilled it the first time, I don't ever have to do it again because then I have amended the soil, rabbit poop from the rabbits, mushroom compost that breaks down over about 2 to 3 years, which continues feeding it and building it. And then every year I get the free chip drops, I throw that down the rows and I cover it that way. And the soil builds over time
Hmm.
because I had the same expectation for myself and I failed every time. Not that it's not doable, because I tried all the methods that everybody said. Build above it, grow above it, put your piles of mulch and compost and just grow in that and eventually it'll break down. Mine never did that because I had runoff. The water would just wash it all away and it never permeated below the ground. It never went below because the clay soil was too hard.
Hmm.
It wouldn't do it. And so I kept struggling because it wouldn't work. And what I realized again is like meeting in the middle, compromise. I was fighting so hard against the things that I felt didn't work in society, the things that we were trying to get away from, that I
Hmm.
villainized the one thing that was going to get me to meet in the middle. And
Hmm.
so I cried about it, but I tilled the soil. And I apologized and I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like ruining all of this. But I had to do something to like meet in the middle and make it work. And so I was able to grow food. And then I didn't have to do it again. And then I was able to start building the soil. And I realized like me wanting to perfect things and do it the right way was also causing me to fail. So I'm not saying to go home and tell your husband that he was right, because I'm not saying that's the only way to do things. But I had to do something, and that was me meeting in the middle. I still have my raised beds. The ground underneath has never been tilled. It's probably the most beautiful ground I own, and I can't do anything with it because obviously my raised beds. But my in-ground garden is tilled. It is sort of a victory garden because I do rows, but I do interplant. I do have some things that are perennials, but the ground here in the South is just so impossible because the weeds, the long growing season, the pressure that comes from all outside sources just make it so impossible. We have set ourselves to such high standards that we have one of the hardest growing climates. We really do. And it's like fighting against something constantly that just so hard to work with. So I do. I've tilled my garden. I know people are, like, oh my God, I can't believe you've done that. You've killed the ground, but it is the most healthy ground I have besides my raised bed garden area. No, it has more worms than every other area. It's the healthiest soil. It's a good mix of clay and compost, and it grows the most amazing food. I still have to constantly weed it, even with mulch, even with the compost, even with layers of all the things, the cardboard, all of it. It still grows incessantly because it's the healthiest ground I have. It just loves growing all the things. So it's more work than any area of my property, but I still do the same thing. I'd still do the other things, right? Like my fruit trees, I have mulch all around them. I'm going to start planting more comfrey around them. You know, Other things, I've got clover growing out there, violets that suppress weeds. I do all those things too, but it's so difficult where we live. It really is. Like we are fighting against so many things out there that do not naturally want us to grow that way. So I think maybe not being so harsh about it might give you a successful garden. I mean, finding balance in that. Like you can be okay with tilling temporarily if that's what gets you started. And I know that's hard, but it can work that way too.
Well, we've chilled a couple of times. So
Oh
I'm not trying at all to say that I'm not judgy about it at all. It's not something I wanted to do.
yeah.
So I fought really hard against it. And I wanted to try other things, and he's not even interested in trying anything. He just, this is the way they've done it. Let me do it this way. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't even care about being out here. But so no, you sometimes you do have to break ground initially so that you can build it up from there. You got to make a mess before you can clean a mess. If you,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I just think that's where we are as a society, and that's with everything. Like left wing, right? Like it's always such an extreme polarized place that we live in now. And I think people have forgotten to meet in the middle. I think that's just the
Hmm.
biggest issue. People think they can't have both. They can't, it's so one way or the other that the other side is villainized. And I mean that with gardening, with trades, with how to do things, anything, canning. There's the rebel canners and then there's the by the book canners. Like I understand again, there's health reasons for that, right? Like there are
Don't can
repercussions.
meat.
People have gotten so extreme with one way or the other, it makes it so hard for
Yeah.
people to see that there is a middle ground.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what people need to see. It's because like I have people come in here like, how do why do you do it this way? And I'm like, just because it works for me. That's not going to work
Hmm.
for somebody 2 hours north of me. People have to find their own way of doing things again, taking all the information and just meeting it in the middle where it works for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Another reason that gardening is so hard is because it's an art to every location. And yes, our climate and our type of soil, but even like my yard has different things that it needs to work around and with than your yard. And we live, what, 3 miles away from each other?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, 15 minutes down the road, they don't get snow when 9 times out of 10 we do. But we've been rezoned to zone 8.
Hmm.
We're not tropical. And zone 8 is a tropical region and people come in and they're like, "Oh, now I can plant, citrus trees and all of this because we're zone 8." And I'm like, "Oh, no, no, no. That is can will not live here. You can't plant avocado trees. You can't plant citrus. I just planted cherries. My friend 1 hour south has huge cherry harvests. We are very unlikely to get them here, and I planted them anyways because the potential maybe one out of every 7 or 10 years we might have the climate that matches it,
Hmm.
but most likely not going to happen. But it's the potentiality. It's recognizing that, yeah, from one spot to the next, your microclimates matter too. And again, not to scare people away, but it's like you just got to do trial and error.
Hmm. Yeah. Did I tell you we turned our greenhouse into a chicken coop?
Did you really?
We did.
So, are you just giving up on starting plants?
No, he bought me another greenhouse. 'Cause, back in the fall, I was like, we'll just turn because we were wanting chickens, and I was like, we'll just turn the greenhouse into a chicken coop. And he's like, but then you'll lose your greenhouse. I'm like, well, it cooked everything anyway, you know? I've had that thing for like, I don't know, 7 years at least. And everybody's always, what do you put in it? What do you put in it? Myself. That's it. It was a she shed, I just sitting there with my laptop because in the winter, of course. So that was where I hung out in the winter to be able to get some vitamin D and sunshine and warmth and some peace and quiet away from the kids and
Yeah,
but nothing would live in there because actually I could do a really good leafy greens in the winter worked in there. So I made some.
good to know.
Yeah, there's you an option. I did because leafy greens and stuff are so susceptible to pests anyway that it helps to kind of have that extra layer of they're encased in a house.
Yeah,
So what
bug,
I did,
bug suppression.
hmm So what I did was I made hotbeds. You familiar with that?
Yes, I'd like the compost ones that They heat themselves? Yes.
Yeah, so I did hotbeds in the greenhouse, and year before last, I think it was, when we had that freeze that locked everything down for like a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yes.
I had lettuce greens in the greenhouse during that time, and they did beautifully. Like,
See, that's so nice.
yeah, didn't bother them at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, that's
So
fascinating.
so that's what we did with that. And then so yeah, back in the fall, I was like, no, it's fine, just take it. And so he situated it into a chicken coop. And then in January, I was like, I need a place to put these seeds. So I had some things worked out and this and that, and I ended up I have a similar to your shelf that you just showed us situation
Yeah.
going on in my kitchen.
See,
But
and it's easy.
yeah.
With kids, it's easy. You can get to it. It's easy access. It's easy to control. We have a hot climate most of the year, and I'm realizing like a greenhouse. Well, we put fans in. We installed auto fans. Well, my husband did. I did not. And that's supposed to keep it cooler, but
Mhm.
again, over my head, I'm like, I don't know how to set these. I don't, I just don't know how to work a greenhouse yet. It is definitely a skill you have to learn, or
Hmm.
you need someone to teach you how to do because I am definitely not proficient in that. So I probably will be out in mine during the winter time for some warmth and some sunshine, but that, you know, learning to grow in it is definitely a skill. And I don't blame you for moving it indoors.
Yeah. Well, if it's not heated, then you still have to be kind of there. That's the problem with it. Like it has to be heated for most things when you start seeds and stuff. So you can't really even start any seeds in them because
Yeah,
it's it still gets below the temperature they need to be because like pepper seeds, for example, need
have
the
to be warm, yes.
yeah, they have
Under
to be like
heat mats.
yeah. So if you don't have any power out there, and we don't because it's so far away from the house, we don't have any heat. But the new one we have is bigger and it's completely different. You know what my old one looked like? It was like
Yes.
a plexiglass
Hmm.
greenhouse. It was like sturdy and stuff, but it didn't have enough airflow. And it was small on the smaller end, so everything just baked in there. This one is about twice the size, and it's a hoop house and
Oh, okay.
it has 6 windows. So I got 3 windows on each side, so plenty of airflow. And then the front, the door is big, and it's just a big like tarp top. But yeah, I put a hammock in it, so
See,
that's what I've been doing.
that's so nice. We did do the same thing with ours. Dustin was not happy about my ideas of how grandiose it needed to be. Again, shouldn't look at social media. It really ruins you. So I purchased windows off my friend that was removing them from her house in the
Hmm.
city. And I was like, as many windows as you can put on this thing, I want. So he ended up installing, I think, like 16 windows on this greenhouse. And every one of them can be like propped up so that air can flow through them. We
Good.
haven't even installed the clips or anything. They just have to stay shut for now. But yeah, I was like, I just need basically this big sunroom that that I can walk into and get airflow.
Yeah.
And it's aesthetically so fun to look at. Probably not for everybody else, but I just love it so much because, yeah, windows, the more windows you can have, the better. It's nice to have that, but yeah, here in the South with the humidity, you can't not have airflow.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the biggest issues that kill plants is the diseases that come from high
Hmm.
humidity, no airflow, and again, that's one of the biggest problems. I'm always amazed at people who have these big, like 11-foot plus greenhouses, or no, I think they're like 16 feet big greenhouses that they can keep running all year round. I'm like, I don't know how you do it.
Hmm.
I cannot fathom how you keep everything so accurately done that everything grows and it looks way better than my plants do.
See, I don't know. I guess because that's just what I've been trying to mess with so much. Because I tried, I tried a lot to grow things in the greenhouse, and it just, some things will and some things won't. But I feel like it's more of a controlled system rather than being outdoors and the just
Fend
subject
for
to Mother
yourself.
Nature.
See, and that's why, it's like we have animals here, but I don't want to be on the animal side because it requires me to be present every single day, no missteps. And whereas plants are forgiving, or you can do it again if you mess up and just miss some time because, life gets busy with kids. And
Not a big
um,
deal if a plant dies, but if you have a
yeah,
goat
like
that dies.
I can go out and leave something in the garden and it's going to be there next week.
Hmm.
Like I don't have to go out there and do anything. It's going to tend to itself. Nature's going to take care of it. It'll rain. I don't have to do anything. I love the hands-off approach. And a greenhouse needs either a system automatically set up where it constantly runs without you, or, you've got to be there 24/7, and that is really difficult.
You're right, it does take way more watering because the elements don't get to it. So,
Exactly. That's a problem for me.
hmm I saw y'all had some pieces of the old greenhouse or something on the uh Debbie posted about it on Facebook yesterday.
Yeah, the neighbor took it.
Okay.
Um,
I sent it
they
to Blake. I
actually,
was like, I was busy all day and he had the truck and I was like, oh, not that I needed any of it, but
right? Neither did we. Dustin went and took it down, and it was gifted to us, and we so badly like I will not we Dustin wants nothing to do with any of these projects that I give him.
bless
He's
him.
just an unwilling participant, but I love him for it because he does it anyways. That greenhouse has sat there ever since we brought it here, and no one was going to put it up. No one was going to do anything with it. It was a grand idea that was never going to come to fruition. Did
Hmm.
I hope that at some point it would? Yes, but it would have been way too much work trying to get the ground managed inside of it, getting all of the grass gone. Like it really was just a headache that was never going to happen. And, so that went away as quickly as that thought passed. And all that hard work for nothing, but, someone else will get a nice greenhouse out of it. So,
Yeah, just pass on the resources to
yeah,
somebody.
gifted it to a neighbor.
Hmm. Somebody just gave us a huge box of that plastic, that twine stuff that you use for 3D printing.
Yeah, filament.
Filament. Yep. Yep. Rowan got a 3D printer a couple of years ago. I think it came off of Temu. It was a birthday gift. The instructions are really hard to understand because whoever wrote them, English was not their first language. And so, it's the resources that we have available to us are so vast that there's very few barriers these days, no matter what you're working with whatever you want to learn how to do. Because, not only the internet, but because resources are so vast around us, somebody has bought the things that you need for that project and are willing to either give it to you just to be, because they're just happy to see it being used for the thing that they wanted to use it for. So now they can live vicariously through you. So you can go do the thing and you can come back and be like, look what I did with the thing that you bought. That's how I got a lot of my gardening stuff this year from I had some friends who just up and moved to Minnesota out of nowhere.
Yeah.
She had bought a ridiculous amount of high quality gardening stuff like that really thick black landscaping
Fabric.
made yes, just
Yeah. Those are expensive.
yeah.
I use that too, and it's I think 300 and something dollars. It's extremely expensive because we've had to buy many.
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's gold to a
Yeah.
farm.
And she just gave it to me and I have tons to work with still. And then they gave me this like half of the so we turned the greenhouse into a chicken coop, but half of it's the greenhouse and the other half is this like chicken wire wrapped box cage thing that her husband had built for her to protect her tomato plants from the deer.
Oh,
So we got
that,
that. We got all sorts of stuff. So and every now and then I'll when I'm working out in the garden, I'll take pictures of the stuff and I'll send it to them. They're in Minnesota. It's still snow on the ground up there.
no,
I
thank you.
man, she's from there, so she was used to that type of weather. She hated it here. She was like, it's so hot and there's so many bugs. And
Oh
uh,
man,
her daughter and my daughter were really good friends, so they've been FaceTiming each other
that's
here and
hard
there.
too.
Yeah, and well, her daughter's like, even if she goes, it snowed and it never melted. And even when it's really, really, really cold, we still have to go to school and we still have to go outside for recess. And I'm just slipping and sliding all over the place.
Oh yeah, that's when I went to Colorado. I was really young. We went there temporarily, and I had never seen snow like that before, and it was like taller than me. And they just moved it out of the way and sent us onto the playground, and I thought they had lost their minds because I could not fathom how they were going outside to play on metal bars and slides in the snow. And they were like, "Well, do you have, where's your jacket?" And I was like, "There's no jacket efficient enough to let me live through this. I need to go back where it's warm. I can't do this." And I just stood out there in complete shock because I just could not fathom that people live that way. I was like, I've never seen anything like it. And I still to this day have not forgotten that. And I'm like, that is definitely not for me. I could move further south any day. I will take the bugs. Do not give me that kind of snow. I need to stay warm. And
Mhm.
I'm built for that. I'll take the heat any day.
I'm the same way. I think that snow is beautiful. And that's the extent of it. That's as far as I'm willing to move with that. My body, as soon as well, I have Raynaud's for one. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I,
Yeah, for people who don't know, if I get slightly cold, my body freaks out and draws all of the blood circulation from my feet and hands into my core so that I don't freeze to death or whatever. It's very dramatic, right? But aside from that, if I'm any kind of cold, I go into hibernation mode and I can't function. I've done really well this winter. I don't know what's going on. I guess I've just been way too busy. So, I haven't like noticed any kind of the winter blues that generally set in for me and are really bad. But usually during the winter, as soon as it starts getting cold, I can't sit down. I have to keep moving because if I sit down, I'm going to fall asleep.
yeah. See, I get seasonal depression. Again, I have a tanning bed to get through the winter months
How dare
because that's
you?
just,
I can't believe
I
you.
know myself well enough to know that,
You're going to get cancer.
you know what? Not I. I'm a lizard on a hot rock. Just let me live in my terrarium
Hey, we're
and
getting a
the heat
snake.
lamp. Huh?
We're getting a snake.
Debbie has snakes. They're
Does
so
she?
cute. Yeah, she's got pet snakes in her bedroom. I think no, she moved them in the living room. Was in the bedroom. I love like little corn snakes and stuff. They're so
Is that
cute.
what she has?
She has two, a corn snake and something else. I don't
A
remember.
milk snake? Is it
We
little or is it a boa? Because that's really about
no,
the only.
no, 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 nothing crazy like that. But um, no, just it's like similar in size to a corn snake.
It's probably a milk snake or a rat snake
I remember we went and
or a
bought it, and I
garter.
can't remember what it is. Because we got it at one of the exotic animal shows.
Hmm.
A beautiful little snake, though. So is it Rowan's?
No, it's Sage's.
I love that even more.
It's always been her favorite animal. She was like 2 years old and just loves snakes. Like she loves snake. The closest thing she could ever get to a snake was worms. So she would go outside and just have hands full, pockets full of worms all the time. And
That's
yeah, and then there's this movie. It's a Return to the Outback or something. It's like on Disney or Netflix. It's about a
okay.
snake. And it's about a snake who escapes captivity and goes back into the wild or whatever. And people treat her that like she's scary and bad and stuff just because she's a
Yeah.
snake, but she's not. But Sage has just her entire life been obsessed with snakes. So that's what she wanted for her birthday. So that's what we're doing.
That's
And
so sweet.
yeah, it's been a whole project, as you know, but we almost have the tank set up and we're in communications with this guy about getting it's called a lavender. It's a corn snake, but for the vast majority of corn snakes are red or orange.
Yeah.
I didn't want a red or an orange one. I
Yeah.
wanted, I was like, these things live like 20 or 30 years. I would like to get one, like if we're putting that much into it, I would like to go slow and find one that we really, really like. So
Right.
there's this lavender one. that we found online at Morph Market, which is, they described it as the Amazon of
Oh,
reptiles.
you're right.
Yeah, so
You're
it
about right.
it's more on the, even though it's lavender, it's called lavender, the color, it's more of a white gray.
White. Mhm. Debbie has one of those. Hers is like a whitish color too.
Yeah. Anyway, super excited.
You'll have to come say hi to him one day.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, she would love that. Which I gotta bring you your DVDs back anyway. So they've been hanging right here on my living room door for 6 months probably.
Do you end up watching them?
I tried to watch them.
The nostalgia is better than the actual rewatching of.
Well, so it was really difficult to figure out what order to watch them in. And then I got halfway through and one of them started skipping and it wouldn't let me play past that part. And
That
yeah,
they are old.
they are old.
They have been watched.
Yeah.
But as I watched back, I was like, yeah, this was better when I was a kid. I think we're gonna have to leave it there.
We've been watching Sword Art Online.
We've watched that one too.
I don't know how this escaped my complete, like, I didn't even know it existed at all. And apparently it's old or older, you
A few
know.
years older now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a new one,
Yeah.
but it just popped up at, and I was like, I thought it was new because it's, VR, but it predates VR, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool because they nailed it on the head pretty well. But
Apothecary Diaries is a really good one if you haven't watched it.
that's what I've heard. Blake's sister was telling me about it.
Such a good one. Such a good one. Totally love that one. Not to go off on a tangent on animes, but yeah,
I
really
think
good.
I think anime. I don't think anime is too much of a tangent from the overall themes that I generally talk about anyway, which is, figuring out who you are and your strengths and weaknesses and how to integrate the past traumas into doing better for yourself in the future in the community and energy work. Anime has tons of energy work parallels.
It does, which is funny because we'll be watching something and, Dustin, he's always talking about how woo-woo I am because obviously my job and the other business with the channeling. And so there'll be something on the TV and he's like, that's what you were just talking about the other day. And I'm like, yeah, because
Yep.
that's like, they're very real. And again, it's that way with everything, right? Like the truth is out there everywhere. The nature of the reality of our world is in everything. Our movies,
Hmm.
they just want you to believe it's not real, but animes are more geared towards like what is capable and things that are real. And I mean, that's even like there's so many things that come out in sessions where I'll remember that I read a book and it's, fantasy. And I'm like, wow, that was more real than we would ever be led to believe, which just makes it all the more fun because it's like our world's actually really magical. And we live it through fantasy books, but um, I can't tell you how crazy the experiences get that I run into, and people don't know what to do with me because they're like, "Oh, you farm," and then they find out the other nature of the things that we do, and they're like, "Oh, you're weird." And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess if we want to put it that way, because I don't fit in a box."
Hmm.
I think it's permission to live in all the ways and places that are fun.
Hmm.
It doesn't need to be so serious.
Yeah, because the gardening and the tinctures and all of that stuff gives you a really grounded nature. And then you start talking about channeling, and people are like, "Mm, so you're one of those people. Those crazy people are supposed to have like purple hair and piercings all over their face. Like, what are you talking about? This is
Yeah,
voodoo."
we look very different than, but also I think that's again the balance. Like, of course, there's permission to do all those things, right? Even when I was teenagers, I dyed my hair pink and purple and blue and green and, put zebra stripes in our hair. Like,
Yeah, no judgment.
absolutely lived all extremes, the emo side, the punk rock side, the self-expression in every way, shape, and form. Um, but I think it's just permission to be and look and experience life however that shows up. without the expectation that you can only be one or the other. I think that's what makes it so much more fun though, because people are totally shocked. I think the shock factor is what's so fun. Because, obviously I wear my hair up in a bun and a clip, and then people are like, you do what for a living? And, they'll see me out gardening, and then they come and they're like, wait, what? What's happening here? Like, yeah, because, that's the variety of life. It's so much more fun.
Hmm. Yeah. You give me strength for sure to do the things that I do because, I don't know what to do with what I do. It's just, it feels so ungrounded. And then I see you taking the ungrounded and making it very plausible and very solid. And so it's a beautiful art that you are capable of doing is taking the non-physical and making it physical and presenting it in a way that makes sense and bridges for people. People are looking for deeper that outside of religion. I've been talking
Yeah.
about that a lot because y- me and you have talked about it, so it feels like inorganic to reiterate the fact that a lot of people, especially in our area, the only mode of spirituality they had was religion. Even though I'll have also said lately a lot that this is a weird place to live because you have the hyper religious of, the Bible Belt paired with the mysticism of Appalachia and also the spirituality of Native Americans, and they all kind of just mix into this. I don't know if it's unique or not, but it's definitely different.
But again, it goes back to that everyone is only choosing one and can't have many. So again, it's a mix here, but then it's like everybody repels from each other. And that's the thing, you can only pick one, and I think that's what I've found a way to do in a lot of things in life. Like I can meet people where they are. They can talk about religion and have no idea that I'm well versed in those too, because I can take bits and pieces from that. I have many trauma wounds from religion as a kid growing up, in all these places like Church of Christ and all these things and the exposures that I've had, and that you're going to hell. I can appreciate it for what it offers, and I can bring bits and pieces of that into it as well. But I also am spiritual, not religious. And so I can live in more of the Native American side without, embodying that from them, taking that from them, because I can't claim ancestry. But I live mostly predominantly that way in all of the things that I do, the way that I grow.
Hmm.
I bless those things that I am constantly doing, talking to the plants and animals and the land. Um, but I don't need to embody that so much that people can't meet me where I am. I don't do it in such a way that people can't relate to it. And then again, on the non-physical side, the metaphysical side, I live in that realm because of my job. I live most of my life that way. I see things that other people don't see. I experience the non-physical day to day now is predominantly what I see and experience throughout most of my day in life. The the undercurrent that fuels the life we live, which is where most people don't want to live, because then, how do you embody that in the physical? A lot of people go, well, mediums and psychics, they're a breed of their own and they don't live in the real world. But you can have all of that and still be relatable.
Hmm.
You can still live that and embody it and still live in a 3D world where technology runs most of our things. People think you can only have one or the other, and there's balance. I live and experience that world predominantly, and yet I live in a world of technology and accept that for what it is too. And I don't shy away from any of it. I want to be able to live in all the realms and have balance in that. And I think that's what people, again, they forget. They think you can only be one or the other. And that's the whole point of the mastery, is bringing it all together and living in a world where you are living. We live in a 3D world where we have to experience being human, and we villainize that. Oh, the mastery of self is getting rid of all the things physical, and you have to embody the spirit and live in that. But that's not what we came here for. You can have that, and you can still enjoy physical things. You can still enjoy having the new technology. You can have it and people forget that. That's not mastery, giving up all things and expecting to only live one way. It can be. It always can be, but it doesn't have to be. We need to be able to experience all things that we came here for, which is just being human and everything that comes with it. So, that's why people are so shocked when they come to classes or they experience a session and then they realize, like, this whole world is out there, but like, then how do you bring that back into the physical?
Mm,
It's really not that complicated. It's just a matter of not throwing out everything, expecting to only have to live and experience it one day. It's the
mhm,
balance. So, it really is not that difficult. I think it's just because we don't have enough people teaching that you don't have to go to a Buddhist monk temple and live there for 2 years and throw everything else out and then try to come back and reintegrate back into the world. You can, and it's a great teaching, but there's a way to do it without having to be extreme in any one direction. Yeah, it's great to travel the world and live life in all the aspects, but you can then bring it back into the place that you're meant to be and embody that and all the things that fit into that place.
yeah, the boxes. We have a rigidity of our belief systems that keep us confined to the expansion of what could be.
Yeah. Like, I
Yeah.
don't villainize religion. We live in a place where that is predominant.
Hmm.
I meet people where they are all the time with that. I can talk religion, I can talk Christianity and Buddhism and all of these other, Taoist and all these other major standpoints that because now we're becoming a blended society where so many people are moving in, but there's still the predominance of religion.
Hmm.
You know, it's even recognizing that it's just recently someone was talking about the Bible, which is a huge trigger for me because I grew up with it being forced down my throat and
Hmm.
you're going to hell because you're making choices that even though spirit was telling me to do, didn't agree with that. But even now it's like people were talking about, and I don't remember how it was worded, but basically even in the Bible it states like you can embody spirit, but without the action it means nothing.
Hmm.
So yeah, you can say, oh, bless you, these fruits and all of these things, right? But if you're not willing to give them those things to help someone to extend that assistance, well, then where is God really? You're not embodying that God that so much they say, yes, you can't do that, but also that is the teachings of God, is to embody what he would do, right? So again, it's recognizing that there's balance even in that, the people who say, well, all, God will provide them all these things. Well, but then God is in us. So can't you do that? Can't you help that person who needs food? Can't you offer assistance or a blanket or, something to the homeless person on the street? And they go, well, but they're doing it for the wrong reasons. Well, it doesn't matter because God didn't care.
Hmm.
Doesn't care how they get their means. They may be doing it in a roundabout manner, but we weren't meant to judge that. You can be the one to embody that. Like, we fight so much against the good and bad that
Hmm.
we forget the whole point of all of it, whether you're looking at spirituality, religion, good versus bad, that the whole point is the experience.
Hmm.
We become jaded. We become, oh, this or that, rigid in everything we do. And that is not how energy flows. That's not how it works. And we've created boxes around everything in life. It's just not healthy. It doesn't work. It restricts flow,
Hmm.
which is life force energy. That's what we're meant to live is the in the moment innocence of every moment that's not the same as the one before it.
Yeah, it's like a flowing river, and then the boxes we create are dams hindering. So I understand. I would I love that. I love the time that we're in now, that we're bridging the esoteric and the metaphysics with the solidity, with the science because they've never been separate. It's just our perception of their separateness. And we could go into, I've talked about it before, how we ended up separating that because used to it wasn't separate. It was like everything happened because the gods willed it, and that is science, but we don't want to believe that that's science. Yeah. The more you learn, the less you really just even want to use words because words are so limiting, but words are necessary to bridge.
Yeah, well, and that's funny because that's what I know a lot of Charlie Goldsmith's work as a healer has been to bridge that gap, um, showing that there is a way to use the scientific community to allow like one of the greatest healers of our time, because he is, but he's used science to then start backing it and proving it. He's let them do brain scans, blood tests, like all of these things throughout his life to prove that there is more to it. And he's been such an advocate of utilizing science to begin to prove what people like him already knew is that there is more to it. There's something bigger out there that allows itself to work through humans, but being able to make it not so esoteric and mystified that it's impossible to get behind it. I mean, God talks about miracles, right? Like, again, that's in the Bible, but then we don't believe
Mhm.
in them.
Yeah.
And people like that teach that there are miracles every day if we just allow that to happen. If we believe that spirit is bigger than we are, in whatever way you want to put a definition to that. So science is finally catching up to the more esoteric things. I think we always knew it, but just without the permission to believe it. But there's a whole subset of people who do believe it and do live by that. But because they're by definition so unusual or weird, or may look different, that I mean, it's like, the seers of the day, right? Like the seers were always put in a hut outside of the village because they were weird, right? Like they didn't fit into society. What's the point of that? Well, because it still made them like on a different level, on a pedestal, but like not a livable thing that you could just do and still be in society. So we have separated these things for so long that we don't realize they can be blended. You can have both, but people have to make it look a certain way. And so then because we're trying to fit in those definitions, that they can't be blended. And that's why I think it just shocks people so often when they run across people like us who are living all of it because it's so unusual.
Have you read Autobiography of a Yogi?
Yeah. Yeah, Yogananda.
Yeah.
It's very hard to read, and I have attempted so many times and made it through portions of it. Um, Such an amazing teacher and such a big guide for so many people. I I like his teachings, but it's like give me the cliff notes because it is harder to read.
Okay.
Still an amazing book.
Yeah, yeah, and really challenges everything you know about everything. But like I agree because I also grew up in church and one of my first memories because like when you're a kid, you're not really conscious of anything. You're just kind of like going about and stuff. So even though I was present at church, I don't know if I was really taking in a whole lot other than like, oh, Noah, animals, ark, flood,
Yeah.
just your basic, generic, across the board things. But one of the things that really like I remember it sticking with me was Jesus said that we could do everything that he could do. And it was like I was in a reality experiencing this separate from everybody else because even though they were giving me the words Jesus said we could do everything he could do. My immediate thought was, oh, okay, let's do that then. How do you do that? Like, what do we do? And in the exact same breath, it's like they were telling me, don't be ridiculous, we could never.
Yeah.
What do you mean we could never? Jesus just said that we could.
Yeah.
So like how?
He could also talk to God, but you can't do that. You have to go through someone else. It's confusing as a child.
It's a confusing as an adult.
Well, it's I think believing everything everyone tells you. I think that's such a lesson in discernment too. That I questioned that so much as a child too that I got reprimanded for it. Like
Hmm.
it was like you can't do that. You can't ask those questions. And I have learned that my entire life is nothing but asking questions. That's what I do for a living now.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating. I always want to know more. And so when you push those boundaries for people, it makes them very uncomfortable
Uh-huh.
because
Well, I
they
mean,
don't have the answer either.
they don't have any answers for you. They just have Well, the Bible doesn't tell you how. It just says that you can. So
Yeah.
if it doesn't tell you how in the Bible, then we just have to kind of glaze over the fact that you can. We can't actually. Maybe we could have if they had given us the information, if they had written it and put it in the Bible. But since they didn't, we cannot. And so, like that was one of the 1,000 reasons I got turned away from that. And then when I started discovering things like Reiki and energy work and chakras and, all these other mostly Eastern philosophies and whatnot that did give you a insight into a direction of what could be possible as mentioned in the Bible, you know?
Mhm.
But people have such a, oh, we can't listen to any of that. Every single bit of that is the devil's work because it didn't make it into our version of what is right and true and stuff. So,
Yeah, but I think that's it's as Spirit was talking about, like in every civilization that has ever been out there, every civilization hits a point where technology, the internet, like AI, all of this becomes a part of society at some point, no matter you know, their evolution. And that's what changes society as a whole, because they said then you go from all of the things that are closed off to all of the things that are accessible, and you start to realize like everyone is like you, and just everybody gets to learn from everybody. So then the rules that have been in place no longer fit. They can't hold you in chains anymore to belief systems that you've never had access to others. Not really, but now we do. And so they said that changes every civilization at that point, because everyone that is then open to everyone else. You start to see they're not the enemy. You start to see they have really great ideas, other ways of living, philosophies that work. You're not reading just one person's history anymore. You're reading many histories. You're seeing many other points of view. And that is at the point that civilization changes. Wars, they may ramp up, but people start to realize they don't want them. People start to take other ways of living and realize they might work better than what we have. So the chains that we're bound by for centuries no longer fit, because you can't withhold that any longer, because you now have access to all the other things out there, which then kind of breaks those chains of society that we've had, and we don't have to live by anymore. So they no longer have the power they had. It's not that religion will never be there. Spirit always says they will always have a place. It will always be a part of society. So, we go, oh, yay, we finally, like, all these people will see the truth. Well, that's still a truth. Every religion is still a truth.
mhm,
And there are many people that's serving a purpose for, like, that will never go away. And I
mhm,
had a really hard time with that at first, because I said, well, but people can now see what I've been asking, like that there's more, and that those rules don't always apply. Like it's not necessarily the truth. And they said, but it's still truth for some. It will always be truth for some, because they need that in our
mhm,
3D world. There are people who can't handle not having a box, and
mhm,
that's okay too, because we villainize that as well. We go, oh, maybe everybody else will wake up. But that's not necessary either. That's not
mhm,
the case. So we now as a civilization have opportunities to find where we fit and how that fits for us and meld it to what we need, but they're still not villainizing those who will still need that infrastructure for their beliefs and faith. But for those who do still ask questions and don't want to fit within those boundaries, we have unlimited potential to now move beyond that and figure out where we fit. And there'll be other people who come that will need those guiding lights to do the same. So, it's once technology hits a civilization, it's never the same after that. And it kind of breaks off into branches of people who want to live purely through technology, and those who want to live purely spiritual, and those who want to live somewhere in between.
mhm,
And we think like, oh, everything's failing and falling apart. Civilization is just going to hell in a handbasket. Nobody knows what to do. But really, this is kind of like the breaking apart to rebuild a new place where all of it can exist.
mhm,
And once you realize that, it's not so terrifying to see that, yes, everyone's going to war in all the places, but it's just because everybody's trying to figure out now how everything's going to create a new way of living. And every civilization that hits that, there's a new potential for a new way to do things.
yeah.
And we're just,
Reality and truth is relative to each individual. And it doesn't really matter. It no, what you label it as doesn't matter as long as it's helpful in your progress, your personal progress, and, living your life the best way you possibly can. Health and wellness, you know. I like that. I like that because we were so rigid in our belief systems historically because we didn't have enough information to really tear those belief systems apart. So we structured them because that was what helped us create a sense of life and society and structure. And there's so much information now that both anything can hold water and nothing can hold water simultaneously, depending on how far you're willing to look into the things.
Well, I mean, yeah, we used to have no options and now we have many.
Hmm.
It's just as confusing to the human as the other option, right? So people go, "Oh, well, this is the problem with society now. It's just too much information." Yes, but that's where discernment comes in. And the biggest topic that Spirit has had lately is discernment.
Mm.
Discernment on what is truth for you may not be truth for another, and that's okay. You have to be okay with that because two truths can be true at the same time. And I think that's so hard for us, or so hard for our brains and our minds to go, well, but which is it? And that's my personality to a T. I need to know the truth. So what is the truth? And they go, both can be true. And I'm like, but which truth is the truer truth? I need you to give me the truest truth of the truths that are out there. And they're like, it doesn't work that way because your life path that has led you to your truths are not going to be truth for another. And I'm like, yeah, but then like which is true? Like their truth, like is my truth wrong and I'm just believing it because like I'm crazy, right? Or like you know what I mean? Like this is the world we live in right now, and Spirit goes, but truth is not, it's not, it doesn't make it solid. It doesn't make it the only truth. So, whereas like you go left wing, right wing, like right wing, right? Like both of their sides you can argue truth. So then people go, well, which is it? And they go, both. You can have an argument for both things. Anything medical, right? Vaccines, no vaccines. It was fascinating because Christine Northrup, which has been a pioneer in the field of natural medicine and natural health, she had made a post that just like, it really made so much sense. She was like, okay, if we're arguing no vaccines, right? And she's a huge advocate of personal choice, pro choice in everything, right? Here's what you can do to support your system if you're choosing to not go vaccinated. And she's like, but the problem is nobody wants to talk about the consequences. She's been in the natural realm for so long, she's been blacklisted basically. People have tried to take her down because she's been teaching this for so long, longer than I've been alive. She's been a pioneer since the 80s and 90s. And she said, but because people are so extreme and they only want to say you cannot vaccinate and everything will be okay or they'll be healthier. She's like, you're not talking about the consequences. There's still consequences because there's consequences to both. Yes, if you get vaccines, yes, they can kill you, but they may not. Everybody's body is different, and we forget to take these things into account that both sides are true. Yes, vaccines can help. Yes, they can kill you. Yes, no vaccines can help, but yes, they can still kill you. You can still die from a disease because maybe your bodily autonomy is not created with the extra nutrients it needs to combat that. So you may be weak in vitamin A that would fight the measles, or that would make you completely immune and give you no problems. Not everybody has that though. And so, whereas one kid may be completely unscathed, and yes, people argue my kids are so much healthier, that doesn't mean the next kid's not going to die from it.
Mm.
Whereas, yes, one kid may handle vaccines totally fine and have no ill consequences. That doesn't mean the next one won't be killed from it.
Mm.
Both sides are true, and that's what people can't understand. It's got to be one or the other. You can't have both, but you can. You can choose to be pro-vaccine and still realize there's consequences, but you can choose to be, you know, pro-no vaccine, but no one wants to look at the bad side. If you're on one side, you can't admit that there's a problem with that too. You have to meet in the middle. If you're choosing not to go vaccine, you still have to look at what you do need to know and what it may be worth knowing your genetics and your predispositions. Does it matter? 9 times out of 10, no, but it's the one time that a kid dies from it, and then the other side goes, oh, see, it was wrong. Look, people are still dying. Well, because everybody's body is different. What they need is not the same. Some kids are getting ear infections left and right, and others are not. Yes, some vaccines cause that for some people. Yes, some antibiotics cause that for some people, but so does someone's ear canal not being built the same way, which they just are predisposed to it regardless. Even our naturopath doctor is so pro only this that you can't even have gluten. I'm naturally sensitive to it. I still eat it anyways, but I'm going into it knowing that there are consequences and I have to combat those consequences to make it worth it. And people go, oh, you're doing the wrong thing. You shouldn't be doing that. You know better. You're just killing yourself. No, because spirit has told me at the time when I needed it, yes, they had to tip the scales somehow because my body was dying.
Mm.
So I developed the allergy. At the time, I didn't know what was happening, but they told me later that my body was dying and they had to take something away. So they took away one of the biggest stressors that I didn't even know I had. I didn't know I was predisposed to a gluten sensitivity. I lived my life eating pasta. I had no idea. It didn't need it at the time, but then my body needed it later. And then they give it, and then I said, well, I don't want to be allergic to this for the rest of my life and worked to making that a reality that I could live in where I could have those things. But I also know that there are consequences and I do the best that I can to combat that and support the body. And people would go, oh, well, you're just going to die early because you're just giving yourself exposure to all these things that are killing you. But when I ask spirit, they go, no, because your belief system matters. If
Mm-hmm.
you fear that food you're eating, absolutely it will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fear is what kills you, not the food.
Mm-hmm.
Your panic and expectation of what it's doing to your body has more of an effect than what it actually has on your body. And people don't take those things into account because they don't know that they can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never grew up eating dairy and now I have it, but I have raw milk and my body craves it. The second you put processed milk in front of me, it makes me sick.
Mm-hmm.
There is caveats to everything. It's finding your balance and finding what works for your body, and people just do not recognize that it's a possibility because we're in a society that tells you you have to pick one or the other, and there's no other options. It's that cut and dry, and that is never the truth. Never the truth. And once somebody can recognize that, then all of the information falls away, and the importance of learning your own personal autonomy, the way your body works, your discernment, because they said spirit says discernment is the most important thing you can learn at this point in time because they said the veil is gone. It's no longer thinning. We are now in a place that the world has never been in. Astrologically, spiritually, physically, mentally, they say everything is heightened because of it. Your emotions are heightened all of a sudden when they've never been that way. You can't run from it anymore because we are now living in a place where we have finally matched energetically a place where the earth has now never been, and we have all options. And now discernment matters because now you have to choose what works for you, not what everybody else tells you to do. And that's the hardest part because that's free will. And it's
Mm-hmm.
terrifying for people because you now have to step into your own lead role, which we've always been in a here's the leader and we're all the followers.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that anymore. It is now a you have to find your own path because you're now your own leader. And people don't want that.
No.
Most people want someone to tell them what to do, but now everyone's telling you what to do and all of it's not working.
Yep.
That's the problem now. And now you got to figure it out. Trial and error, failing and failing again until you do figure out what works for your body, your mind, your spirit. You know, it matters for every single person now. And it's terrifying. People are terrified to have that kind of power.
Yeah.
This is the power Jesus talked about.
Yeah. Uh, Nobody wants to take responsibility. It's a lot of work. And leadership's been coming up as a topic a lot lately because we don't have enough leaders. And a lot of people think that leadership is something that you're just naturally uh, gifted with, I guess. Like, you have just natural leaders, and like, yeah, they exist. But for the vast majority of the truth of it, leadership is something that you choose reluctantly. And if it's not reluctant, and like, okay, so well, I guess it's all reluctant because nobody wants to take responsibility in leadership for themselves and their own beliefs and decisions and habits and all of that. But nobody for sure, they don't want to boss themselves around, much less other people. And that's, you know, boss around is a negative connotation that we have uh, learned is bad, and nobody wants to be bad. And yeah, it's exhausting, but
Well, I mean, we have toxic spirituality now too, where
sure.
you have all these leaders that have also done the same thing that society's always done. It's put someone on a pedestal and their truth is
Hmm.
the only truth. And their ego is so large that, you can't say anything against what they tell you because then you're a problem, you're a threat. And I'm seeing this so much now in the spiritual world where it's also been taken over by that same influence. And the whole thing of what people need is people who give gentle guidance and can help you find the answers that you're looking for without telling you their truth is the only truth. It's
Hmm.
okay, maybe this isn't going to work for you, but maybe this is, try it. Or, my truth is the only truth and I'm getting answers from spirit. So, here's your answers and this has to be your truth. Um, that was my awakening with someone who caused such great harm that it almost killed me. And so the toxic spirituality happening right now is all these leaders who are saying, my way or the only way. And it is harming a lot of people. We do need more leaders, but people are terrified to step up because then you're a threat and people come after you.
Yes.
But in the spiritual realm, so now it's the unseen world, people using black magic and sending those things your way, people sending curses and all of this. And for somebody who's just stepping into this realm and asking to be, trying to be a leader in their community, it's terrifying.
Hmm. Oh no, we froze. Sorry, the FBI didn't like us talking about that subject.
There's always interference, right? It's always when you get to the topics that are important that things start to go haywire.
Uh-huh.
I notice that all the time. My phone will start cutting out when we start on a topic that we're uncovering or diving into, um, and our communications all of a sudden don't work. And again, people are like, "Oh, you're one of those conspiracy theorists." No, that's just reality, unfortunately, and you never believe it until you're in the middle of it, and your stuff's not working. Your phone starts cutting off. Um, But yeah, I think we need more leaders in all of the places that can
Hmm.
take the ego aspect out of the way. I think we're still in a society where leadership has very negative connotations and the people who are most needed can't step up
Hmm.
out of fear or threat or intimidation.
Hmm.
And that was one of the hardest things for me is I kept saying, I don't want to be a leader. I don't want this role. Every time I've been asked, like on a deeper level, to kind of step into it and share, I have been attacked. But it's more energetically people you know, who don't want that, who don't want truth out there in a way that's not geared to their own personal gain. That's just out there for the benefit of other people. And so there have been those silent battles that kind of get waged. Um, and it's definitely humbling. Um, but it's just to keep going. And now it's at a point where it can't be stopped. I think that's also what Jesus taught was the light is more powerful than anything else out there. And people fear that they fear that within themselves. They don't believe it. And once you're forced to start believing your own power, no one can take that away.
Hmm.
No one can stop that. And I think that's what we need is more people who believe in themselves, who believe that there is a way to make things happen, that they do have power to create their reality and the world that they want to live in. A peaceful one where everybody can still exist with their own things and there be enough room for it all.
Yeah. I really enjoy talking to you. And I feel like well, Considering me and you can sit and talk for like 5 or 6 hours without rest, we are just getting started as far as, so it's not like it feels like we're just getting started. No, me and
Finally
you,
just dove into the deep topics.
yeah. And I love our contrast because like we can keep up with each other, but I feel so insufficient with the you're so eloquent in the way you explain things and the way you go on that I'm just like I like snakes. Have
I
you
mean, I
watched this
swirl
new
out too.
I've been watching this new cartoon. I just divert. But um I am always excited to see what you're doing and hear what you have to share. And I would love to do this as often as you would be interested in doing it. If you, I know your life is busy and whatnot. You got to come. Y'all gotta, what are y'all gonna do with this? You're gonna go kayaking. You're gonna learn how to play pickleball. Join the scouts. I wore my scout shirt. Blake
We
said that I
already did the
needed.
scouts. That didn't last long.
Oh, you were with the wrong scouts.
Oh, we just don't have time. Lily was over it in like the first 5 meetings. She was done. She's like, I can't do this anymore. Not her forte. Um, I used to play tennis, so pickleball's not that far out.
No,
So
not at all.
definitely something we can make happen at some point. But it's just because even in our free time, we're so family oriented. It's like we just go outside on the farm and just run around. Garden, it's like our free time is spent doing work, but it's not work. It's like we're in the
Yeah.
pool, our little raised pool, or sitting outside sunbathing and just relaxing, or making a fire. It's like we say we're busy and we really are, but like in our non-busy moments, it's like filled with those things that kind of recharge us. And
Yeah.
it's like come over and hang out, or we can come over there and hang out, and like we don't have to do a whole lot. We just enjoy being.
Yeah.
So either way, we enjoy, doing the things, but we also enjoy just chilling.
Yeah. Well,
Balance.
we've me and a couple of other moms play pickleball during the week, during the day while the kids are at school. So,
That's a lot of fun.
because I know if you're like the rest of us and you probably have more time to work with during the day than you do in the evenings and stuff. But
Hmm.
if you ever want to, I play like 3 times a week. So just hit me up and be like,
Nice.
what's it look like this week?
Look at the schedule. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can do that. Because yeah, I do a lot of hypnosis during the weekdays, and that's kind of I know my kids are like, well, no, you work, and I'm like, yeah, but for me, it's like work play.
Yeah, it's fun.
Like it's a career I enjoy. So I'm like
Hmm.
I'm working, but I'm not. But yes, it's exhausting, but like it's different than actually going to a 9 to 5 job. So
Sure.
usually that's the case. But yeah, definitely during the summer, kids will be home, and we'll have a lot more free time.
Yeah, there you go. Bring them. We go to the duck pond and the kids play with all the other kids because we'll have a whole horde of them because we're all parents.
Right?
And I said moms earlier, it's dads too. It's pretty even between moms and dads. It's parents our age. But anyway,
That's kind
uh,
of cool.
it is. It's really cool. But plug your book. Tell people about your book and how to get it and stuff. And then what you
Um,
have to offer, close it up.
so it's the book is past life regression and conversations with the higher self. And the whole premise of that is kind of what I do for a career, um, is the past life regression, which is the spiritual woo-woo side, right? Um, but the book holds 20 sessions of a variety of people who have come from different places. Um, Islanders, UFO abductees, other civilizations, explorations, past lives on planet Earth, through different time periods, all the way back to cavemen. Um, there are people that go back so far into history that some of it can't even be cross-referenced, but some of it can. And it's fascinating. It's a view into humanity and how it plays into the here and now, how it plays into our thoughts, our patterns, the lessons we're learning, and the higher self telling us, why we're experiencing it. What are we doing? Why are we here? What's the point? And are we learning the things that we came here to learn? What's our biggest life accomplishments? And and sometimes it's as simple as never having experienced love and still finding a way to show unconditional love in a life full of pain. Still holding that space when everything is against us. Everybody's lessons are so vastly different, and it's really humbling to see how spirit plays such a big role in our life and that we're not alone in this and that we have so much more history than we think we do in our own soul, and that's where that power comes from. That's the power Jesus spoke of, is the history of our soul and the power that it brings with it, our own soul's ancestry and the parts that that plays. So that has been my life's work and will continue to be in a lot of ways, where people get to step into their personal power and understanding why they're here and what's the point. Because Earth is hard. It's hard, but it doesn't have to be. And once we learn those lessons and we can break those chains from the patterns that we've had, there's an entirely new life to live out there. And so that's kind of the premise of the book, and the understanding that I hope that it kind of brings people who are pulled to read it.
Yeah, you're very Dolores Cannon meets Abraham Hicks.
And that's funny because the other business that I do, that's more newer, is the channeling.
Yeah.
Um, Kayla is a channeler, and so we do that together. We do channelings just like Abraham does. People who are familiar with Abraham Hicks or Lee Harris is a big channeler of our time. I know people bring up Bashar. We're quite different. We go a lot deeper into information than Abraham does, a lot deeper into soul history and other things within the soul that are not just in the here and now, which is so much fun.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
so much fun.
All right, cool. Well, we will link your book and your website and all of that in the show notes.
Thank you. And it's always good to sit and chat, whether it just be, a phone conversation or, the recorded ones where insights or deeper topics are talked about in this manner.
Yeah, as, as often you want to do it.
I'm always here. Just whittling away at all the things.